Right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's live lesson. Last week, for those who were attending, we were discussing persuasive or argumentative writing, and we didn't quite get finished, unfortunately. So we'll try to finish that today because it's very important, because a lot of the essays you're going to write in the future are going to be persuasive or argumentative. Remember, we said persuasion is generally trying to change the way somebody feels about a certain subject. Okay? Let's take a look at our document just to remind you. As we said, persuasion is generally carried out by changing the way somebody feels about something. And that's your job. You're going to write that in your assignment. Remember, we decided about persuasive strategy. There are 3 artistic proofs thought up by Aristotle many thousands of years ago: pathos, logos, and ethos. Try to think about what these mean, or if you were asked that question in an exam, for example. Pathos is an appeal to the emotion. Okay, so you must have an emotional, you're waiting for an emotional response. Logos is the appeal to logic. You've got some facts and figures that can persuade someone. Ethos is when there's ethical appeal, which means the author has to have good character or credibility. Okay, the writer must be intelligent and show he's trustworthy. So that's your 3 artistic proofs for persuasive or argumentative writing, which we looked at last time: pathos, logos, ethos. Okay. We looked at the persuasive techniques. We'll just run through them very briefly, which were adjectives and adverbs. They can persuade people just by the ones you're using. Appealing to your sense of justice or fairness or integrity. Informal and inclusive language. You can be saying you to the person in your assignment, or we, or us. Okay. Cliches are overused expressions which everyone understands. You can use them. Emotive words and connotations, which are implications or inferences. Using words that really tug at people's heartstrings: agonizing, excruciating, heartbreaking, mind-boggling, malicious, all these words, types of words. Now, here's your logic-y part coming in: evidence and expert opinion. You need that to convince some people. Exaggeration, when someone overstates something. That's what you need to do sometimes. Every essay you have should have figures of speech somewhere in them, like a metaphor or a simile. No matter what the type of writing, you bring that in, always looks good. What's where the hypothetical situations are things that might or could happen. What would happen if the moon fell down and hit the earth? Would that be the end of mankind? So we'd be using words like would, should, etc. Again, there was repetition. Repetition of words, phrases, and ideas can reinforce an argument. You hear it so many times, you're like, oh, it must be right. Then there was the rhetorical question, a question that doesn't really need an answer. It makes the reader jump to the conclusion that the writer wants. You want somebody to answer a question in a certain way. That's a good question that Grace has just brought up. Would we be able to research information during the exam? Unfortunately not. You'd have to rely on any previous information you may have gathered in the past. I don't think they would really ask you something that required a lot of external information that you didn't know anything about. So I wouldn't worry about that one. Okay. Right. And finally, we had the tone. How are you going to write this argumentative essay? Are you going to be enthusiastic? Are you going to be humorous? Are you going to be knowledgeable? Are you going to be logical? Or are you going to be neutral, unbiased? Or are you going to be witty and have nice, light-hearted, clever, funny things inside there? But in order to answer that question, you need to think about this, how to go about writing that persuasive essay. First of all, are you for something or are you against it? Okay? It doesn't have to be your personal beliefs. Maybe you're thinking, well, I know a lot about things against this, so maybe I should be against it. Or alternatively, you might say, oh, I know a lot of things that are pro this particular item, so maybe I should go that way. It doesn't have to be your real true feelings. Remember, we were saying, what tone are you going to write? It all depends on who the reader is going to be. Are you writing for children, teenagers, business people? If it's for children, maybe you need a lot of images. If it's for teenagers, maybe subtitles are good, because then they can see at a glance which part they want to look at. So the persuasive or argumentative essay, choose your position, find out who your reader is going to be, and then do your research. Okay? A persuasive essay has to be credible and convincing. Okay, so you need to think up some good arguments. Now, before we look at planning and method, I would like you to take a look at a plan for an essay. A spider diagram or plan for your essay should look something like this. A big box at the top with vocabulary. That's all to do with that subject or topic that you've been asked to write about. Think of all the words you know. Think of all the synonyms. Think of antonyms, you know, little phrases that you've heard perhaps. And also you should be thinking of a simile, a metaphor. Can you use personification in this essay? Can you use onomatopoeia? Those things are going to impress your examiner at some point. So you must think of all the vocabulary you can to do with that subject before you get going. Say we were looking at space travel, for example, and you think of words like the starry nights, realities, spectacles, phenomenon, risk, mission, weather, the final frontier, exploration, the galaxy, colonization, global warming even in there, homelessness, things that you could perhaps use in your essay. Put everything down like that first, and then you've got a whole bank of words that you can use. Okay. Right. First of all, look at this spider diagram. Unfortunately, we can't see it all at the moment. So let's look at the part in the middle, the intro. Let's say exploring space seems to be one thing mankind has always aspired to. Okay, so this looks like you're going to be very positive and you think that space travel is a good thing. So you will back up that paragraph with some evidence or information or explanation. What's your main argument going to be? The wonder and mystery of space has advanced technology and scientific knowledge. Okay, so you're saying it's a good thing because it's done this. And what would your conclusion be? Space travel opens new and exciting horizons, technological, scientific, and economic. Okay, so that's your main plan. But then, of course, you have to turn this into topic sentence 1, topic sentence 2, topic sentence 3, and of course, a counter argument. You always have to have that. Okay, so your topic sentence 1 could be something like, how could space travel benefit mankind? That could be your very first sentence. It's short, sharp, and to the point. Then you would explain how it could be of benefit. Okay, your next paragraph, topic sentence 2, touring the whole galaxy could quench our thirst for exploration. So men love exploring and finding out new things. So you would have to write a paragraph about that with your stats and facts backing it up. And then you would maybe have another topic sentence. Oops. No, then we would go to our counter argument, I think. Let's look at your counter argument. Opponents of space exploration argue too much time and money is spent for the returns gained. Okay, people say it's a waste of money. Why don't we solve the problems of starvation, homelessness, and all that stuff first? So you have to get that in there and explain why not. Right, someone's just brought up a question there. We should draw and fill in all our knowledge into a spider graph. Well, it's not all your knowledge, I hope, that goes in this one square. It's just knowledge for that particular assignment. Okay? You're not really memorizing it as well. This is to help you write your essay. Because if you've got all this in front of you, all you have to do is put it together. So you've done all the hard thinking first of all. Okay? Right? So after the counter argument, you might have another little, although Earth has many problems, the solutions cost less than the large amounts allocated to space travel. And that would be another paragraph, okay? Now remember we said you must have some stats and facts. Maybe you would have found this out. It costs about 62 million to send an orbit, a satellite into space that weighs 22,000 kilos. $62 million, that's a lot of money. Then, depending on how far you're going, a space flight ticket could cost anything from $250,000 to tens of millions of dollars. So, as we said before, it's only for the select, elite, very rich few people going into space, isn't it? Another thing you can do while you're at it is write down words that you're going to need to use. When you're contrasting your points in your counter argument, try to get these words into the beginning of your sentence or the middle, wherever it's appropriate. However, whilst but yet, alternatively, instead, if you're adding more information, also as well as furthermore, besides, similarly. You also need signposting words. Okay? First and foremost, secondly, after that, finally, then, since, previously, meanwhile, etc. These show where your essay is heading. It helps where ideas flow more smoothly. And then this one that they seem to love doing, you need adverbs or intensifiers. You need good adjectives and adverbs to state your case and to try and appeal to people's emotions. So you could be using words like fundamentally, certainly, significantly, exponentially, impossibly, absolutely, highly, really, etc. So these are adverbs or intensifiers which make your argument more profound. All right, here's another thing they ask you to do with your persuasive techniques, which is nominalization, which is it's a big word for just turning a word class into a noun. So if you've got a verb or adjective, perhaps that's all you could generally do. You would add a suffix like ity, tion, ment, or ism. And you use this as a concept. For example, you'll have all heard of cronyism. Crony is your friend. So like the government's been found guilty of cronyism, giving jobs to their friends. Food, you could say, oh, there's going to be a foodathon next week. There's going to be free food. So we've made that word into another noun. Music, oh, there's a music fest next week. Great, oh, his greatness is amazing. The greatness of that band is astounding. So it's just turning nouns into slightly different nouns, verbs into nouns, adjectives into nouns, and using it as a concept. Okay? So those words would stand out in your essay. And then finally, they've got the one they love calling mental state verbs. What on earth is a mental state verb? It's all to do with planning, understanding, thinking, and deciding. So all the words that you know that are part of that are known as mental state verbs. For example, know, think, learn, understand, feel, guess, hope, expect, decide, remember. So they're words you've been using all along, but you probably didn't know they were called mental state verbs. So this is the kind of thing you should be doing before you write an assignment or essay. Get all the information together in one place. And then, as I say, it's just a matter of doing a draft, do a draft copy, and then finally write out your final copy. So in fact, if you copy this very spider diagram, you can use a lot of it for every single essay, because you need your intro, main argument, conclusion, topic sentences, adverbs, stats and facts, contrasting, signposting words, etc. You might not use them all. Maybe it's a descriptive essay you're writing. Maybe you have to write an adventurous type of essay where you need, one of the boxes would have to say, like location. Where's it all happening? Setting and location. You don't need stats and facts. Maybe another one would be, characters. Character number 1, some description. Character number 2. So as long as you've got enough information that you've come up with yourself, you are going to be able to write your essay easy peasy. And on the top, you've got your useful vocabulary. And try to think of a simile, metaphor, personification, or onomatopoeia if you can, because it gives you more marks. You're impressing your examiner that way. Okay? So remember, if you need this, you can send me a web chat and I can send it to you. All right? Let's look at an example of an essay that's been written in that vein. Okay? How to go about writing a persuasive essay, choose your position, who's going to be reading it, and research if you can. If you're in an exam at the time, you really have to strain your brain and make sure you have been reading a lot every single day. It's the only way to pick up general knowledge. Right, planning and method. As we said, you have to have an introduction. This time we're going to look at an essay about cell phones being dangerous to use in vehicles. Okay? So the first thing you do in your introduction, get the reader's attention by using a hook. Something that'll be like, huh? Something that catches their eye. Driving while talking on your cell phone is the same as drunk driving. Is it really? I didn't know that. You know, you've got to surprise them, shock them, and if you wrote something like that, you could put an exclamation mark. Okay? Write an overview of the argument or big picture. Drivers using cell phones are the leading cause of road accidents. Wow. And end the paragraph by stating your own opinion. I believe that if drivers were prohibited from using cell phones, accidents would be significantly reduced and lives would be saved. So there in your introduction, you put everything that you think about cell phones. You've stated your position. Oh, that's nice. Somebody's given us an email address for a spider diagram. So take a look at that. Thank you. Right, remember body paragraphs, what we said about them? Watch the paragraph traffic lights. Topic sentence tells you what your paragraph will be about. Amber, supporting sentences add details about what you said. Concluding sentence closes that paragraph. Further, we said paragraphs should include P, the point you're making, the topic sentence, E, the evidence, the backup and support of your contention with examples, quotes, stats, etc. E, an explanation, why, how, and finally L, just the link to the question, a short conclusion to the paragraph that links to the next paragraph. And that's why you use those connecting words. Okay. Right, here's an example of paragraph 1. The topic sentence is in bold. Cell phone use while driving has become a leading cause of vehicle crashes. This is due to drivers being unable to multitask because they are distracted. Distractions decrease the driver's attention and slow down reaction times. For example, drivers tend to have slow reactions to changing traffic lights, or they don't even notice them changing. They're too busy on their phone. Not only do distractions cause erratic driving, for example, they're straddling lanes, they're driving along the white line, or they're drifting from lane 1 through to lane 3, and everyone else has to be on the lookout for this person on their cell phone. But even drivers doing that have a slower brake reaction time. You can't slam on your brakes very quickly if you've got a cell phone in your hand. Reports have shown that 11% of drivers between the ages of 18 to 21 were distracted and had a fatal crash. If it's fatal, somebody has died. So whether it's the driver himself or an innocent pedestrian or whatever, we need to know. So it looks like drivers are willing to risk their personal safety as well as the safety of others because they cannot put down their cell phones. Look at this guy on his cell phone looking at it. He's not looking at the road. He's not paying attention. When you're driving, you have to be looking in your mirror, what's behind you, what's in front of you, what's going to jump out in front of you. You can't really do that. It's unsafe. So that would be your first paragraph. Here's an example of paragraph 2. Again, topic sentence in bold. Texting is an even bigger killer than talking on a cell phone. Texting while driving has now replaced drinking and driving as the leading cause of death among teenage drivers. So you guys will probably all be teenage drivers at some point when you learn to drive. Okay, so make sure you do not do this. According to a survey conducted by Pretoria University, 49% of adult drivers admit they text while driving. That's half the people on the road. And in that survey, more than 90% of drivers knew that doing texting while driving is dangerous. Drivers are 4 times more likely to get in an accident while talking on their cell phones and 23 times more likely to crash if texting. So you see how dangerous and risky that is. In addition, this shows the driver's risk increases with more distractions, thereby risking the lives of innocent pedestrians and other drivers. If you hit someone going at a speed, they're going to end up either dead or worse, who knows. Right, so you're trying to persuade someone in this essay of yours not to use cell phones, but you have to have the opposing view paragraph, the counter argument, okay? Although there are serious negative impacts to using cell phones while driving, there may be a few benefits. The most important benefit of cell phones would be security. During emergency situations, a driver could make emergency calls, say for an ambulance or to the police. Further, he could even report any scenario such as a roadside accident to the authorities. Finally, if he lost his way, a driver could locate his desired route on his cell phone, assuming it has GPS, although this would again be highly distractive. However, do these so-called benefits of using a cell phone while driving really outweigh the possibility of serious injury or death to the driver or other road users by using it for an emergency? They didn't have all those things in the past, and somehow we managed to get emergency services to the scene. So think about that. Then finally, our conclusion, where you restate and reinforce your original contention. Drivers who use cell phones while driving are highly dangerous. and are just as guilty as those driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol, which of course is illegal. Most accidents that occur tend to be fatal and have serious consequences, particularly if people are going to end up in a wheelchair or what have you, or brain damaged. That's very serious. All drivers should be prohibited from using cell phones, and this would reduce motor vehicle accidents and deaths on the road. So you see how this has come tied back right to the very beginning of your introduction, where you said driving and using a cell phone is as bad as being a drunk driver. Okay, there's all the scenarios that can happen to you. All horrible. Right, have we got a little bit of time? Very little. You've probably read about the 4 P's in your book: promise, picture, proof, and push. Okay, you must use that for having to have an effective argument. Your sentence structure is also very important. Sorry, I'm going a bit quickly now because we're running out of time. You can use imperative sentences to guide the reader on what to think, rhetorical questions to make them feel involved, add facts or opinions, declarative sentences, exclamatory sentences to make your short, sharp points, ending with an exclamation mark. And of course, you use prepositional phrases for all to talk about where, when, how, what, which, and whose. Again, signposting your writing, which is showing where your writing's going, and for your argument, first, secondly, finally, etc. We've already put them all in our plan. You've got the rule of 3, give 3 examples. So you need 3 topic sentences. Emotive language, make that reader feel an emotion, happiness, sadness, anger. You have to appeal to the reader's feelings, and that makes him care about what you've written. Just to remind you, the 6 steps are an argument: introduction, advance your argument, develop your argument, have a counter argument, dismiss this counter argument, and then your conclusion. Okay? Argumentative texts may cover several opinions or points of view, but they will also use the persuasive techniques, which you'll find are A Forest. That's the acronym for them. A, adjectives, facts, opinions, rule of 3, emotive language, statistics, T, talk to the reader using you or we. So it's A Forest, and that's how you remember those persuasive techniques. Again, just briefly mention the tone. It might reflect the particular point of view, or it might be neutral. Emotional, serious, or humorous are always good to use. Now, if you want to get a copy of this spider diagram, you can send me a web chat. Okay? This will really help you in doing your essays in future. Okay, everyone, I think we are just about to run out of time. So thank you very much for joining us. And hopefully I'll see you next time.